It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and we are talking about housing today. Now, not about the housing crisis, all right? So, you hear about everybody talking about how, I'll never be able to afford a house, and, the new generation of kids, they'll never be able to own property, whatever. That's fine. That's not what we're talking about. You've heard that story enough. You've heard the bitching. We don't need to do that. We're going to talk about living arrangements today, and there's actually... It's kind of funny how sometimes in my life, one person will be going through something, and then another person, and I'm talking like, friends or whoever. So one person's going through something, and then coincidentally, a totally unrelated person, so they don't even know each other, and then, that person, the second person will be telling me the story or going through a situation or whatever it is, and I'm just kind of like, this is funny that, these two individual people who don't know each other, don't know, are going through. So in one of the situations, somebody's going through one kind of a living arrangement, and then another one is kind of going through another one. I thought, how weird is that they're both kind of having this dilemma, is it a dilemma? It's not a crisis. I don't know what situation, let's call it. And so we're going to talk about those different kinds of things. And then, because I've been talking about housing and the cost of things in the past few weeks on the show, some of your emails, and I've been going back and forth with you guys. So it's kind of funny how, we can tie these in and make a show of it. So that's what's happening on The Scribble starting right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on The Scribble. So not too long ago on the show, I was talking about when I first bought my house. And again, that's like, almost 19 years ago now. And when people would come over, I would give them a tour. Literally like I was a realtor kind of showing them the property. I seriously did. I took them, this is the kitchen, here's the bathroom, here's my spare bedroom. It's just empty boxes in it now. But, and then I would take them downstairs, show them the laundry room as well, the cold room that's also in the laundry room. And I don't know how it came across to those people. I should probably ask, but it certainly wasn't meant to brag. I guess, it's just excitement of having your own place, right? So let's talk about this living arrangement for one of my friends who is in what they call a luxury apartment. First of all, I didn't realize that was a term of something because I was just like, an apartment's an apartment. But apparently there's, I'm a property owner, so I've never had to deal with that. So a luxury apartment. And then I know what they are because you see those, depending on, it's usually like in a downtown or a very new development in a city. So now I'm like, okay, so that's called a luxury apartment. I just, whatever. It would be like a house is a house, right? A condo is a condo, an apartment's an apartment. But these are luxury because of the price tag. That's really what that means. So I had gone because you always see whether it's a commercial or, an ad pops up or something on your social media page So I go and I look at it, and at my age, actually, they're seniors complexes now. No, they're not. So you click them, and a lot of times actually, so I have looked at these before, is some of them they're not even fully developed yet. So they're artist rendering or whatever you want to call it, computer graphics or whatever of the proposed, right? This is what it's going to look like when it's ready. And so they want you to buy now, right? Or lock in now because you're going to help basically fund the project. And that actually happened in my hometown of Winnipeg a couple of years ago, well, maybe about 10 years ago. There was a downtown parking lot. Well, there was a building, and then they knocked it down. They put up a parking lot. They paved paradise, and they put up a parking lot. Anybody? Yeah, anyway, so it was a parking lot, and then all of a sudden, there's this ceremony, and they had, I think it was like a couple politicians and people with their hard hats, and they were doing this big press conference to announce this. Again, now I know that it's called a luxury apartment. So, or it might have been a condo, but either way, it was going to be a residential building. So they have this big splashy kind of a thing. There's really nothing to show because it's, again, a parking lot. But they have the not the tablets, the easel, or like the stands, like it'll have the picture or whatever on the, the cardboard kind of easels, and they've got the board, what do you call it, corkboard or something, So it's got, again, the computerized, this is what it's going to look like. And of course, it always just looks so magnificent and, Hollywood, if you will. And so that was it, is that, it's these, luxury apartments, 1 or 2 bedroom, they're starting at, $375,000. And then there was a sign on it at one point that said, 50% sold, which of course is just a selling tactic. And then come to find out years later, it's just not happening. It's not happening. So, you kind of look at that and go, but it seemed like it was a done deal. I mean, all these things, and you've got 50% sold. I mean, come on. How is that not perfect? So, and of course, when you look at one of these on the internet, now you're seeing every second ad is them, right? Because it's locked you in, or it's locked your device into it. And so, anyway, so my friend ends up getting one of these apartments, one of these places. Not in a parking lot, but in an actual building that's constructed. And sure enough, it looks brand new. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. It sort of reminded me of those like boutique hotels. So not like one of the big chains, but one of the ones that's very casual, very trendy, very hip. But it's an apartment, obviously, and you're renting it. And again, so this was an apartment. This was not a condo that he bought. This was an apartment that he was renting. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll check it out one day. So we did lunch, and then because it's downtown, we did lunch downtown, and then it's like, oh, okay, let's just walk to the building. So we go, and it's super nice. It's almost got that new building smell, even though it's been open for a while. And I kind of figured out why, is that they had, there was a terrace, there was an outdoor, on a rooftop, it was kind of like that was the terrace. Oh, sorry, a courtyard is on the main, yeah. So there was a courtyard downstairs, the terrace or whatever was up on the roof, and it was really it was a very nice setup. Not much to it, like it wasn't one of those big that we've got like a rooftop pool, or there wasn't even an indoor pool, so there was nothing like that. The gym was modest would be the word. My husband's gym in our house in Winnipeg is an actual gym because he's a bodybuilder and a fitness model. So he's got more equipment in that gym than this place does, but nevertheless, it's still a fitness room, if you want to call it. There was, and then up on the roof, so where there was like a seating area, there was like a barbecue, or not a barbecue pit, sorry, a fire pit. There was a place to do games where you throw those bean bags onto the board. What is that called? Somebody tell me the name of it. Cornhole. Thank you. So it was really nice. It was, quite nice. There was indoors, so there was kind of like an entertainment area where there was a big TV. There were a few couches. There was like coffee tables and things. And it was almost like you were in just a really big fancy living room. Nobody in any of these places. So when you're walking through, I'm walking through with him, and I almost wanted to say, is it open yet? I mean, are there people? Do people live here? I haven't seen anybody. Now, here's the thing. I would actually enjoy that. I can't stand being around people. This is why I've never lived in an apartment myself, because to me, I just felt too close for comfort. Like my oldest brother, he was the first to move out. He moved in with his girlfriend, and it was exciting because it was his own place. So it was, different. We'd never experienced that in our family yet. It was just the three of us kids still living at home with my parents. So when he got an apartment, it was kind of cool. And, that you could get buzzed up because this would be like somebody would be downstairs. It would ring to your home phone. You would press whatever button and then it would unlock the door and then people would come up. And so it was, his own space. But there was something weird about that for me because you could hear the neighbors. You could hear the people that were beside you. And it's sort of like in some instances with a hotel, right? I don't stay in those lower level rooms, but but I imagine. No, I've stayed in hotels where, you'll hear the doors closing or whatever in the hallway, or, like a thump of something next door. And that's always kind of weirded me out, that there's somebody on the other side of the wall that I don't know, that I don't trust, that it was just really close. That's why I've always, when I first started looking for a house back in like 20 years ago, the first place that I went to was a condo. And the idea of it was pretty cool. Well, hey, you don't have to cut your grass. You don't have to worry about shoveling the snow. And there was a pool. It was small. It was kind of crammed in, but then to know that, again, there was literally somebody else on the other side of the wall. Like you could be standing literally within 2 feet of each other, right? Because you're on one side of the wall. And that just was like, I don't know. I wanted my own freestanding building with just, my own walls. And no. Even if a house is too close together, I'm kind of, a little bit weirded out by that. So this is an amazing place. There's the fitness room. There was that indoor living room, like entertainment area. There was a laundry room. There was like not a canteen. I don't know what you call it. I don't know, like a sort of not a kitchen area. I can't. A lounge, maybe you'd call it, where there was like a bar fridge. So I guess if you were going to be using that large living room, maybe you could put some of your, drinks or whatever in that fridge. It's sort of like a hotel room fridge, like that kind of a thing. Not like a big ass kitchen fridge, and not a, so it was sort of, I guess kind of like a little refreshment area if you were going to use the area, and then there was a space for you to have, your things. There was a sink and whatever. So anyway, so go to the apartment, and super nice. Again, not that Winnipeg has, great views or anything, but certainly downtown, I mean, you do have you've got a view of the city, really, depending on which direction you're facing. And so he's got a really nice view. And the apartment was actually, quite honestly, it would be, like I just said, I haven't lived in an apartment and I've got no interest in it. But if I were somebody who wasn't owning property or whatever, I would live there. It was nice. The rent is what did he say it was? Oh shit. It was oh damn it. It was at least over $3,000 a month. But again, when I think about what people are paying to rent, a regular apartment in some other area of the city. Now, keep in mind that downtown Winnipeg is not a thriving downtown like most cities have. It's actually kind of a dump, and it's kind of a shithole. So, what I'm saying about the actual building itself, like that apartment, I would live in. Drop it into a different neighborhood, then absolutely, I'm sold. But living in downtown Winnipeg, I don't care how nice the facility, I don't care how nice the building, I would not live in downtown Winnipeg. So let me just put it like that. But anyway, so yeah, the apartment's nice, again, super new. I always like a counter in the kitchen. I always like a counter that has those like bar stool kind of seats. I don't know what you call them. Are they just called bar stools? Or like a, I like when there's like an island and there's kind of a counter that you can sit at in the kitchen. So it had that. Lots of big windows, as I said, so the view was really nice. It was a big bathroom, and that I liked that as well because I'm a bath person. So for me, a crammed in bath is just kind of not, but it was, it was a nice, yeah. And so that was his thing was, this is really nice, and I love it. It's just not vibrant, like it's not thriving, like it's not, hustle bustle. You don't really see anybody. And I said again, that's a problem. I'm not quite understanding what that would be. That's heaven to me. What are you wanting it to be, a frat house, like what, or a sorority? Like, what are you wanting this to be? I mean, but I think because again, it's passed off as this trendy, right? And in the images that they'll show, it's going to be, you know, these like business casual, or they'll use, you know, stock photos or AI or whatever of the people, you know, having a good time. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, no, I'd much rather be able to just go about my day not passing anybody, not hearing anybody. I asked him, I said, well, do you know, like, how many people? Look, what's the occupancy? Is it, you know, half of the place is booked, or, you know, like occupied, or is it, you know, is it mostly an empty building? Like, what do you, on an average day, when you're going around, how many people do you see? And so he said there's quite a few people, but just nobody uses those spaces, which to me is kind of weird, because that's one of the things that draws you into getting the place. And so then it had me thinking, because we have, my husband and I, we've got two houses, one in West Hollywood, one in Winnipeg. When I bought the house in Winnipeg, again 19 years ago, everybody wants that big house, right? Like everybody, like the hospitals in Winnipeg do this fundraising. It's called the hospital lottery, and you buy these expensive tickets, lottery tickets, for like $200 or $250 or $500 or whatever it is. And there's grand prizes. It's usually like $1 million, or it's a fancy house or whatever. And so I would buy those back, you know, in the day before I was a homeowner, I'm saying. And so I would be thinking like, oh my God, that would be, I could get a house, right? And it's gonna be the big house with, you know, 4 bedrooms or 5 or 6, or it's on the lake, or it's whatever. So fast forward to when I actually get my own house, because again, I don't know that anybody who's house shopping, let's put price aside. I don't know anybody who's house shopping and going, I want the tiniest, I want the smallest house, I don't want a lot of space. No, because if it's your first house, it's your first property, I want everything, right? I want the biggest this, I want the most of this, and then the reality sets in that, okay, so our house is big, it's not quite it is actually kind of one of those that you'd win on the hospital lottery thing. But here's the thing. There's so much space that either you don't use, it's got to be cleaned, you got to furnish, you've got to whatever. Because for the longest time, when it was just me living in the house, why did I need 4 bedrooms? And, you know, so Bonnie Winters, our producer, had said to me one time when she came through, when I showed her, she's like, oh, this would be a nice sitting area. And then somebody else said to me, oh, you can do a man cave in the basement. And I just kind of was laughing. I said, but what is a man cave? It's a TV and a couch, right? Well, that's my living room. When it's one person living in the house, right? And so again, Bonnie with the sitting area, I'm like, but that's also the living room. See, like everything kind of is, the man cave is primarily, you know, a guy's space away from the kids and the wife and whatever. It's like, but it's just me. So why? So I'm going to just go, oh, well, tonight I'm going to go to the man cave downstairs, but there's nothing wrong with the living room. Like, it's just going to be the same, you know, it's downstairs. So we're getting 2 versions of it, you know. So once the dust settles of your new place, you're kind of like, yeah, this house really is just too big for me, isn't it? Like, there's a spare bedroom. We still have a spare bedroom in the house that's really got nothing in it. We say that it's the dog's room, but they don't know that. They don't spend time in it, but that's just what we call it. There's a kennel, like a cage, in the corner of the room from when we first got them, you know, they were from my previous dogs. And then, you know, when you're house training or whatever, when you get your new puppy. So, I mean, we've had these guys for 5 years now. So they haven't been in that in a very long time. I think that is the only thing that's in that room that there's nothing. And then there might be some, you know, empty boxes or something, but there's nothing, there's absolutely nothing in that room. It's got nice hardwood floors. It's a nice dark kind of, or a blue color, and we don't use it. There's literally nothing in that room save for a kennel and perhaps an empty box or 2 in another corner. So again, you know, you look at something like that and go, we could furnish it for the sake of furnishing it. Who cares? Why? But it's just kind of like, all right, it'll just be the room over there. It'll just be the spare bedroom. So yeah, even for 2 of us, it's a big house. And again, we've got a basement, which he's turned into. The rec room is essentially a gym. And no, when I say it's essentially a gym, it's literally got like the mirrors on the wall. It's got a special kind of a floor. It's, it's an actual gym. He's serious. He means business. And then I have an office, which, so I have an office for working, and then there's a radio studio. There's literally a radio studio built in my house. That's how much, that was my job for, 15, well, it still kind of is, right? Doing this, sometimes I host the podcast from there. So I've got an office and I've got a radio studio, and then we have our actual bedroom, which is upstairs, and then we've got that empty bedroom, and then the basement we have, his gym, and then there's well, that's actually I guess that would be the bedroom, and there's a rec room where we do have carpeting and everything, but there's no real furnishings there. There's a couch, and then we got some of the things from my grandma's house when she died, so I have like a chair from it, and that's more just kind of a memory thing. I sat in it quite a bit after she died, and I got it just for memory's sake, right? But yeah. We have a very big living room, so that's, there's a fireplace and brick walls and things, and so it's, but again, you want the big house, and if you're having to pay for it or you're furnishing it, you just kind of go and say, wow, this is really expensive. Now, we can afford it, but again, there's just we don't have anything to, like, so that room with the kennel, okay, well, let's get a pinball machine, okay, let's get a pool table, let's get that. But that's not anything that we even want. So now we're kind of forcing ourselves to have a hobby, right? Or, a habit. If it was something like, he loves playing pool, or I love playing pinball, or whatever it is, well then okay, it makes sense. But now you're just getting something for the sake of getting something, and then that's when you never use it. That's when you're not going to do anything with it. So, there's that big house dream. And it's funny too, because, as you get older, and I'm actually like this with hotel suites now. So when we would go do travel programming with our syndicated radio shows, the tourism board that would be paying for the trip would get you they would partner with a hotel, and of course the hotel is wanting to impress you because it's going to be featured on our programming, right? So they want you to get the big fancy suite, and you can take pictures of it, and you can do a video tour and whatever. So they would put you up in the biggest one. And I remember we were in Quebec. Was it Montreal or Quebec City? I don't remember which, but anyway. So this room was massive. It was a suite. So there was actually a dining room that was probably bigger than most apartment bedrooms or even house bedrooms. There was a sitting area, a living room area, which I would say would be way bigger than the average living room in a house. Off of that, there was a bathroom, and then there was a hallway where it took you to a bedroom, and then there was another hallway that led you to another bedroom which had a bathroom in it. And it was funny because, again, when you check in there, you're kind of like, oh my God, I'm going to spread out, right? I'm going to put my stuff in the bedroom. I'm going to have some stuff in the living room. I'm going to put some things on the dining room table, which also had kind of a counter for a bar as well, and then another closet. So I'm sitting down watching TV in the living room, and I'd poured a drink and I left it in the bathroom that was far away. And I just remember groaning and going, oh my God, I gotta go and get it. And then I forgot something, or I wanted to get something else, or I forgot something else. And so I was just like, oh, I gotta get up again. It's such a far walk. And that is the same thing in our house. Not that we have, and I'm not trying to make it sound like we've got this mansion that's, 4 feet or 4 stories and an elevator and whatever. It's not like that at all. But it's a big house. And so I've found that too, where, oh, I left something downstairs. Forget it. I'll get it another day. That's what happens, though. So for anybody, I'm not even talking about, the dream of home ownership. I'm just saying the person who wants the big-ass mansion, think about that. As you get older and you kind of get a little bit lazier, no, you do want the smaller space. So anybody who's of a certain age that wants to downsize after their kids move out, or anything like that, once you retire and you're kind of like, I don't want to do yard work anymore, I just don't want it, I don't want to have to deal with all that shit. You move, you downsize to an apartment or a condo, and it's smaller and it's more compact. I gotta tell you, that's looking more and more attractive, the idea of it. And again, not me living beside somebody on other side of the wall, but yeah, it's it's not all it's cracked up to be. So We got to take a break. Now, when we come back, I told you there's that other situation too, and it actually ties in to retirement and death of parents and your childhood home. I'll explain coming up on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Something that we hear a lot about is when somebody perhaps in their 20s or 30s loses a job, ends a relationship, has financial troubles, they move back home with mom and dad, right? And sometimes, lately, it's a lot about finances. It's just too expensive to, live on your own. Maybe you had, an apartment with 2 roommates, and then one moved out, and then the other one moved out, and you just couldn't afford it. So then you're kind of like, oh shit, last resort, and you have no other choice, right? And so you make that call to mom and dad, or maybe you just kind of hope that they offer, your room is still, here. Which is funny because most of the time parents joke, right? My parents did that when my brothers, when I was moving out. When my brothers moved out, they didn't care because I was still home. But, you get the comments of, I'm going to put in a hot tub. And it's like, yeah, let's see it. And what's funny is that the bedroom that I had in my parents' house it's almost becoming hoarders. It's just, they're acquiring things, and it is just boxes and things. So that is not a couple who made the most of the space when their kids moved out. If anything, it was kind of like, now you're just filling it so that it doesn't seem as empty. I'd love them to take a look at my spare bedroom and go, look at this is nice here. There's like 2 boxes maybe in the corner, and that is it. So I remember one of my brothers, we were at lunch or we were somewhere, and I remember him saying that what did he say? Something like, if my wife, or if we split or whatever and she gets the house, I would rather live on the street than move back home with mom and dad. And that wasn't meant to be a slam against them, because we didn't have a bad childhood. Like, there was nothing wrong with when we grew up. It was fine. We weren't we weren't abused, we weren't neglected, we didn't go hungry, so it wasn't a bad childhood at all. But he just said, now, like, as an adult, there's the pride of it, and then 2, my parents are not, they've become grumpy old people. And so that's where he was just like, yeah, no, I would choose homelessness over that. Now, I mean, that's a bit extreme, so, but the fact that that's how you feel. And so his belief is kind of, once you've moved out, you've kind of moved out. So it is sort of up to you, which is, again, a foreign concept to the younger generation that calls on mom and dad for everything, right? Or relies on them for a lot. I think that I was when did my brothers got married? I guess it was their early 20s. So they moved out, like, you know, once they kind of did the engagement thing or whatever is when they moved out. They were definitely living together before they got married. Both brothers. Oh, so, well, actually, yeah, no, my oldest brother, when he moved into that apartment I was talking about, yeah, they weren't engaged yet, which I remember kind of being like, you know, sort of scandalous. And then my other brother, yeah, they weren't engaged yet either. So the two of them. And they certainly didn't have kids until they were married, yeah, because the girls weren't pregnant. There was no babies or anything at the weddings. They did it the right way. My brothers did it the right way. Oh, don't send me a letter. I don't care. I'm not going to read it. But anyway, so so they moved out probably their early 20s. I moved out. I bought my house when I was, I guess, 25. Which even then, by the way, you know, so go back 19, 20 years ago, that was actually kind of old for still living at home. And I remember people thinking that I would be that guy that was in his 30s or 40s still living with my parents. And I even started to think that at one point. Because again, you just get so comfortable with somebody, you know, my mom was I didn't know how to do laundry. I never did laundry until I even got my own house. The cooking, she cooked everything. And just open the basement door, call down, "Supper, come eat." And then I'd grab my food and then I would come back into my bedroom and watch TV downstairs, you know? So why would you want to leave that? Well, because at some point you do want your own independence, and that's a big part of it. It had nothing to do with like, oh, I need my privacy or whatever. I mean, I had the entire basement really to myself, except for when she would come down and do laundry or, you know, get something out of the freezer that was in there. But, you know, I was a pretty boring kid anyway. My thing was always go out. And even to this day, we don't have people over to our house. We will go out. We'll do things. We'll meet people somewhere, or we'll go to somebody's place. We don't entertain, even though we have the nicest house of all the people that we know. That's not even a joke. It's true. I don't want your grubby paws on my things. Get the fuck out of here. You're not coming into my house. But anyway, so my brother had said, like, that's just his thing, is once you've moved out of the parents' house, you're on your own. You don't fall back on them for that, which is kind of interesting because in our family, let me just think about my cousins for a second. So on our family, our immediate family is closer with my mom's side of the family than my dad's side of the family, though I'm pretty close with some of my cousins on my dad's side of the family. But let's just stick with my mom's side because I know them more and their history. So, okay, one aunt and uncle. So my one cousin did move in. She went back and forth because she would move in with a guy, then they would split, and then she'd move back home. And then my other cousin, her brother, yeah, he even moved away. He moved out of the city for a long time, and then he would come back, and then he move away again, and then so he's actually moved back a couple of times with them. And then my other cousin, he's never moved back. So okay, so we got two cousins in that one family. Another one, okay, so so we had a relative die of cancer, and so she moved back home, you know, to that. Okay, I'll give that a pass. She moved back home with my uncle or whatever. So there's a situation there. So that's not, we don't count that one. Okay. Then my other cousin, those two haven't moved back home ever. So it's just that one family that kind of has the revolving door of back and forth. So that's the question that one of my friends ran into was his final parent. One of his parents had already passed. So his final parent had just died. And so it's kind of this debate of, you know, what do we do with the house? Now, he has a sister, but she doesn't live here. So she's not going to do something with the house, right? I mean, I guess theoretically they would split it or however it was left to them. I think it was basically sort of up to them. And, you know, she doesn't live in the city. So, I mean, even if they were to rent it or something, she's like, I'm not even there, but, you know, like, let's just sell it or let's just do whatever. So my friend's dilemma that he's going through is he's considering moving into his childhood home. Now, he already has a place. This is the thing. So his train of thought or his thought process is, I can sell my place and then get, you know, whatever amount of money. Like, he's got a house, so he's a property owner. I can sell my house and move into, because his house is nicer and more expensive than what the parents' one is. But there's nothing wrong with the parents' one. It's just older. It's not as, modern or not as nice. Or we keep it and we rent it out, or we sell it and we, split the money from it. So now obviously he's going to have to split it either way with the sister, because it's not like he's just going to go, oh, okay. He'll have to either like pay her out for her whatever, or if they rent it, then they split it, or the situation. But anyway, so the main kind of thought was, would you want to live in your childhood home? Now, the interesting thing about that is it feels different to me going to my parents' house now, even though I lived there for 25 years. For that 25 years, it was very comfortable, right? So you come home from school, you come home from work, you go to the mall, and then you come home, and there was a comfort. There was just kind of a familiarity with it. All right, I'll just go downstairs. Oh, I just throw my jacket here. I just go. But once you're removed from it for a while, it doesn't feel like my house anymore. I still have obviously memories of childhood and things like that, but it's not mine. It's not like I just I'll still go into the fridge or open cupboards or whatever it is. But what I'm just saying is that it's not. I don't know. I'm removed from it now, kind of emotionally and physically. So there's a familiarity, maybe not a comfort, I guess is the way to describe it. And so you think about that, I guess, as your parents are getting older too. Now, both of my parents are still alive, so it's, unless they both, unless it's a car crash or something together. So, I mean, one of them is going to be around at least. But, we'd said this with my grandma when she went into a nursing home. It was kind of like, all right. And my grandpa had died, 15 years earlier, I guess. Well, yeah, almost about that. But, I've got my uncle and then my aunt and my mom, the three kids that are left, with this house. What do they do with it? And so there was some discussion of, well, do we keep it? Do we, there's a bunch of grandkids that are going to be needing houses pretty soon, or, keep it as maybe a rental or something for now, or like what? And in the end, they didn't want it. They just said, you know what, let's just sell it. We can, and this was a very dated, I mean, we're talking about an old Ukrainian baba that lived there who, she didn't do anything with new flooring or new anything. I mean, her couch was still like the green pattern flowers and things from however old that was. So, I mean, you come in, you fix it up, right? But there was nothing really wrong with it. But I kind of thought, well, that would be sort of be cool to live in my grandparents' house, because it's a different situation, right? I've got different memories. Now, that would be like my mom going and moving into that one. Just like I said, the situation with me. Would I want to live in my parents' house now? No, I really wouldn't. And so that's the dilemma that my friend is having, is going, I kind of do sort of like it, and I don't want to really let it go. And I guess you're also in that situation where you're not wanting to let go of things. And so going back to my grandma for a second, when we went to, all of us kind of took turns going to the house and taking things. You also kind of feel weird doing that, right? But it's kind of, this is your last chance to grab it, because it's going to be thrown out, right? Or it's going to be donated, or it's going to be whatever. And so I mentioned about having like a chair and things in my basement. So that's actually what I did, was I went down to her basement. Because we split our time between Winnipeg and West Hollywood, so we're not in Winnipeg a lot. So when they started to ransack the house, when the family vultures went through it, I wasn't there for a while. So the house really sat empty for, I would say, almost empty, uninhabited would be the word. It was still fully furnished and everything. There was just nobody living there. So she was in a nursing home for, I don't even know, a year and a half maybe. And so there was nobody living in it there. And then they held on to it even after she had died for several months. I would say maybe again, even almost close to a year. So it had been picked clean very, really drastically by the time I got a chance to go through it. So when I went downstairs and I saw that there was still a bunch of stuff there, there was a chair, there was a little table. She had this really old TV. It was a color TV, but still kind of an old silvery, weighed 10,000 pounds. There was a lamp. There was a magazine rack kind of thing. She always had the National Enquirer, which was kind of funny. I don't know why. My grandpa read it, he loved that, and Jerry Springer and watching wrestling. He was just kind of funny like that. Quick story, by the way, fun fact is, when he was in palliative care, he had cancer, and so he would be watching Jerry Springer, and I was on the radio at the time, and I had said that, Jerry Springer was on the radio with me a bunch of times, quite a few times over the years. And so I remember saying to him, Jerry, and he said, yeah. Oh, my grandpa, had throat cancer back in the day, so he didn't have a voice. He had that little machine that you'd put to your neck to talk. And so I said, I want here, listen to this. And so I'd bring up on my phone the segment of Jerry Springer, and he was laughing. And then we had Hulk Hogan. We taped something with Hulk Hogan. It ended up being on my birthday. We had scheduled it for whatever day, and then it got rescheduled or moved or something had happened. And I wasn't planning to work on my birthday, but then all of a sudden we get this note going, oh, we've got to move it to August 1st. And I thought, that's going to be funny because my grandpa loved Hulk Hogan, and my grandpa was, not doing very well. And I thought, well, this will be great because now it'll be another full circle moment because he loves and he knows Hulk Hogan, right? And you don't really often talk about celebrities with your grandparents, right? So it was kind of funny that, oh my God, I've got this. I didn't mention anything to Hulk when we did it and go, oh my God, my grandpa loves you. I never fanned out like that. Although I think I did mention it to Jerry in one of our segments. I might have to go back and listen to that. But, so I ended up again being able to play that clip for him. And then, he died, I guess, a couple of weeks later, but it was still sort of just kind of a moment. Anyway, so I went downstairs and they had, and one of the Inquirers, by the way, had Montel Williams on the cover on the radio with me, Kathy Lee Gifford on the radio with me, and then somebody else. And I thought, this is kind of funny too, because here's this magazine from, again, 20, maybe 25 years ago. I would have to look at the date. I don't even know. But again, it was just a memory. That was always something that we remember going, oh, that was right beside the couch was the magazine rack, and it's got the National Enquirers, and it's got, a bunch of other things in it. And so I thought, I'm going to take that. So I took the magazine rack, I took the little chair in the corner, the little table. It was a kind of a turntable kind of a thing that had the TV on it. There was a lamp, there was a TV tray. My grandma had a Vegas clock that had the red dice on it. If you're from a certain generation, you probably know what I'm talking about. It was still still wrapped in saran. That's my old Ukrainian Baba's house. And then, there was a little, like a step stool kind of a thing with two little sort of porcelain ornament rabbits on it that was underneath this table. And so when I went into the house, I said, I'm taking this entire corner. And I had gone there with my mom, and she's like, what are you going to, you're not going to use that TV, and that lamp is probably a fire hazard or whatever. And I said, I'm just going to put a little, tribute in the basement. Again, we've got plenty of room in the house. And I said, I'm going to make the Baba Lounge. Baba is what you call your grandma, right? So Baba, I'm going to have the Baba Lounge. And so I did. After her funeral then, I came home, and she loved those corn, what do you call them? Popcorn twists. I think that's what they were called. And then my grandpa loved KFC, so that was always something that we would get. He would get for Mother's Day when we'd have the family party. The moms wouldn't cook. He'd order KFC. And then even in the home, there was a KFC right across the street. So when I would go to visit her on Wednesdays and play bingo, if I got there a little bit early, I'd go to KFC and I'd get her a piece of chicken and some fries. And so we would have that and a glass of wine because they sold wine at the home there. Sometimes I'd smuggle my own in. So I had these popcorn twists. I ordered some KFC, and then I had, and she loved those lottery scratch tickets, and so I had some of those. So I ended up setting up a little bit of a display. And so after the funeral, I came home and I went down to the Baba Lounge, and it was just kind of a nice sort of a tribute. It looks totally out of place, like it's very outdated in our very modern home, but there's, it's memories, right? Like it's just kind of, I don't care what it looks like. And I'm sure my husband's like, it's all like, the furniture's brown or whatever. It doesn't really go with that. It's like, well, I don't fucking care. It's the Baba Lounge and you don't have to be in it. You don't have to see it. You don't have to look at it. But if it's a problem, you can find somewhere else to live. You don't really get a choice. When it comes to my Baba stuff, sorry, the Baba Lounge is staying and I don't care what you think of it. No, it's not bad. And again, we don't even really spend much time down there, in that area. So, but anyway, that's my question for you. Would you live in your parents' house? Would you live in your childhood home? They've passed on, or even if I guess they don't even necessarily have to die. It could just be that they've gone to a retirement home or something, right? I mean, I guess at that point, though, it's still up to them what they do with their property. But, maybe they offer it to you, right? Would you want to, why don't you take the house? Why don't you? And so again, it could be one of two things. It could just be, hey, I rent an apartment and it's costing me a fortune. So you know what? This is a house that's paid off. I would take it. Well, sure, fine, if that's, given your situation. But, again, is it too close for comfort? Would you want to be, like, now your bedroom is going to be the one that they were in, and perhaps the one that you were conceived in. Not to say that you would use their bed or anything like that, but just still knowing that, this was my parents' room. Is that a little bit too close for comfort? Is it a little bit creepy? A little bit odd? I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it. Like I said, even when I go there now, if we go, like if I go with my husband or something, we go downstairs to like my old bedroom. Obviously, it's not done up as a bedroom anymore because my bed isn't there and it's, there's no furniture or whatever. But I mean, just to go into the rec room and sit, it's still, I think, the same couch from when I was there. So that's, again, well over 20 years old for that couch, probably close to 30 years old. Just sitting downstairs, it just doesn't feel like my house anymore. Like it's just, there's a separation, there's a distance now. And I kind of like it that way. I don't know that I would want to, I couldn't see myself moving back. I couldn't see myself living in the basement again or anywhere in the house. Like originally my bedroom was upstairs on the main floor. So there was my parents' room and my room on the main floor. And then my brothers shared a room downstairs. And then when they moved out, I took the bigger room. But I don't know. It would just be... I'm like that. I'm that person who it needs to be my space. I would be terrible with roommates in the sense of, I think when people think of roommates, they think of, Friends or Three's Company or something where you're in each other's lives and you eat dinner together and you live in close quarters, you're watching TV together, and that's just not the reality for the most part when people have a roommate, right? If it's a smaller place, you kind of just stay in your bedroom or whatever it might be. Now, there are instances where friends will get a place together. Okay, sure. But that's something to keep in mind, though, too, right? Is you'll list yourself as needing a roommate or looking for a place to rent or something, and I mean, how well do you know the person before you move in, right? So maybe eventually over time you become friends, but So anyway, send me an email. Tell me your thoughts on these luxury apartments that I was talking about earlier, and then this whole thing about what do you do with you've got your parents' house now. It's between you and your sibling. You've got the option to move in. Tell me your backstory, though. Do you rent? Do you have your own house now? Like, what do what's your living situation now? And would you move into your childhood home? And would it be, purely financial? Would it be convenience? Maybe it's closer to where you work anyway, so okay, that's the better option. Send me that email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com, and we are out of time. So we'll end it there. We'll wrap things up. Again, thank you so much for listening. I always love your feedback. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say about things. So live at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up The Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.